Thanks for checking out this video. Gonna get into it. Gonna rank the Vinegar Syndrome releases from September that I got. I did not get all of them. That's a disclaimer with this. I only just went with the ones that were included with my subscribership because the other ones they didn't catch my fancy, and I'm trying not to buy like everything. Although I will tell you right now, when it comes to the October titles, there's gonna be a lot. So I might have to break that one up into two videos. But anyway, let me get into this one. As usual, I'm going with the movie that I think is the worst of the three first, and then the best of the three last. And it's not just on how much I enjoyed it, it's on, a combination of how much I enjoy the actual film, how many special features are with it, and how good those special features are. I don't take the packaging into account. But anyway, let's get into it. The one that I think is the worst of the three, unfortunately, is Delirium, Photo of Gioia. I enjoyed this movie. It's not a good movie. Let me be clear about that. It's basically about a woman who used to be like a high-end call girl, and then she decides that she's going to start an erotic photo business. I think it's a magazine. And so she has all the best nude models who end up showing up. And then all of a sudden they start dying after she does photo shoots with them. And then she's getting photos of them dead that are mirroring the like some poses and situations from the photo shoot that she just did with them. So it's it's a giallo film that's kind of trying to figure out who's the killer in this situation, and literally a giallo because it's done by Lamberto Bava. So like I said, this is not a good film. The script is pretty bad. The lead actress was not hired for her huge talent. She was hired for her huge something else, and you can tell from that. She does a terrible job. And even in the special features, there were people kind of talking about her, and they were saying like how awesome and nice she was, but they kind of admit like, she wasn't like an actress first. She wasn't the best at this. So yeah, I mean, people kind of knew what they were getting into. Now, the thing that kind of made me like, oh man, about this when I was watching the special features is that they said that Edwige Fenech was supposed to be the lead in this film, and it just makes me think, oh, it would have been so much better, mainly just for me because that's my crush. But yeah, well, she's a much better actress anyway, so that would have been fun too. But there's so much nudity in this film, so if you're into that, if you just want to film specifically a giallo with lots of nudity, go ahead and get this film because there's so much nudity in it. It is so sleazy and horny, it's ridiculous. There are a lot of great visuals to it, and that's the reason I actually like this film. It's because there are some kind of fun, cool kills, and there's great visuals. I think it's shot extremely well. The cinematography is wonderful. They do some really interesting things with the way they use lighting, as well as certain shot framing and camera movements. It just looks great. It has wonderful atmosphere to it. I love the way it looks and feels. And the house that they primarily use in this film is pretty cool. Apparently, based off what I got from the special features, it was used for like a staging house um, for selling like high end furniture to people from like Western Europe or Eastern Asia. Kind of weird, but it looks great. It's very cool, and this is all about the looks of the film. It's nothing about the actual story. The story sucks, but everything else is a lot of fun. You also get these like, I gotta cover up these boobs, but you get these kind of cool things like this where like the killer sees someone with like a giant eyeball on their head, or he sees one of the other people with like a bee head. It's very weird but interesting imagery. So although it is the worst of the releases overall, because there aren't a ton of special features with it either, but the special features are decent enough, I would say that this is the worst one. But one of the other things I wanted to throw out there that I got from the special features, two separate people in separate interviews said very disparaging things about Lamberto Bava. One guy I think called him a jackass or something very similar to it. And the other guy was a lot nicer about it, but basically said that he doesn't think he's a good director, that he's kind of like playing director. And yeah, and there's a lot of kind of insinuations that he has only reached where he has in his career because of his father, who he was. So yeah, very interesting that a lot of people seem to not like Lamberto Bava at all. But I still think it's a good release, especially if you like this film for whatever reason. Like I said, I enjoy this. I enjoy this release. I think the special features are okay. You know, there's enough of it. There you do get some interesting stuff. They even interview Baba himself, but it's a fun, relaxing, whatever movie. So anyway, it's the worst, objectively the worst. Well, subjectively the worst, but yeah, but still good. So the second worst, but also second best, because there's only three of these. I'm going with Cruel Britannia. Now this is a three UK films that are one of them is not, but the other two are very giallo-esque in the way that they are done. It's like who is the killer type thing. But the best of them is not that, which is the film Craze. But then you also have in here Penny Gold and Crucible of Terror. So I'll talk about the lesser ones first and then talk about Crucible of Terror. So basically, Crucible of Terror is just about a bunch of like hippie people who are hanging out and just having fun in like this seaside area where it has some caverns and stuff. And then people are dying, and it's giallo-esque because they're trying to find out who is the killer, you know, who's doing this. It's very slow. I don't love it. There are some cool atmospheric scenes and some cool, and like it's shot in cool ways at times. Some really cool set design as well, and some characters in it, but it's just so slow. It's so slow. It's so boring. There's not a whole lot to it. Penny Gold, I think, is better than Crucible of Terror, not by a ton, because it also is extremely slow until you get to the very end of the film, and then that's where you get a bunch of twists. They're just like, oh, we saved all the excitement for the end of the film. It's just like twist, 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 twist. And that's when it's fun, but at that point you're kind of feeling pretty checked out because it's a very slow, not that fun movie. But it's basically another giallo-esque film where in the very beginning you see a woman get killed by a black glove killer in a trench coat. So you know exactly what this film is going to end up being about. And then there's this whole thing about stamp collecting for some weird reason. And just trying to figure out like who's involved with who and who's actually the killer. And it's just, like I said, the ending is interesting enough, but the rest of the film, it's just so slow and the characters aren't great, and it's just, yeah, a little bit of a mess. But then you have Craze. And Craze, well, here's the thing. With these box sets, when they're usually putting these out, they usually have one film that's really good, and then two films in it that either aren't good or are and that's the case with this one. So Craze is the one that is actually a good film and a lot of fun. Excuse me, I really enjoyed Craze. It has Jack Palance in it, and Jack Palance's performance in it is so much fun. He's just a joy to watch in his role. I think in general, any role he does, but it's basically about this guy who's like a artifacts dealer of like African artifacts, and he has this idol of this like god Chuku, which you can kind of see right here, who he kind of like has all these kind of like he has like a coven that comes together and kind of like prays to Chuku. Well, he ends up sacrificing someone, and then good things happen to him, and there's this whole thing of him just kind of like feeding the beast, aka Chuku, in the sense of he wants his life to keep going a certain way, and he believes that, you know, it's Chuku who's making it happen. So more people must die, basically. So it's one of those movies where you're actually following the person who's doing the bad things, which wasn't that common for back when this came out in the 70s. But it's a very fun film. The story is very engaging. It's shot very well. The characters are very interesting. And the dialogue is very well written. And like I said, Jack Palance's his performance is so much fun. He's magnetizing when he's on the screen. So really, really enjoyed Craze. I will definitely watch that again. I will not watch the other two again, honestly, unless someone else really wants to watch it and I'm just around. But special features wise, it's pretty light on the actual special features on the disc. There's only one for each of the movies, and you don't get a ton of information out of them. Now, where you get the most information is from the essay book, which each has an essay for the film, which is cool. because they easily could have just made it like all about Craze, because we all know that Craze is the best one in here. But you learn some interesting backstory of like how the film was made, who made the film. One of the things that they talk about a lot in the essays is like what was going on with Hammer at the time in the UK, and like kind of where that was from like a societal context with film. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. So you get a lot more from the movies with these essays, which is why I always like seeing releases from Vinegar Syndrome with essays, because they're usually really good. Now, these aren't my favorite essays. My favorite essays usually get like really analytical about the film and like the subtext in the film and stuff like that. But these do give you some really good information if you're into that. So still, this is a good release. I would say it's worth it for Craze, because it's a very interesting, fun, cool film, and I'll watch it again. So my number 2 pick is Cruel Britannia. Now going to the number 1, which I'm sure plenty of people are already keeping track. They know which one this is going to end up being. And I saw a lot of people disparaging this film, being just like, it sucks. Online, of course. Yeah, it sucks, but like, I like how it sucks. It's a fun movie. So that is Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. This is a great release, honestly. If you like the movie, if you have fun with the movie, it's a great release that I think you definitely should get. And the reason I say that is it has a lot of special features and one small booklet inside with one essay about it, which is also really good. So just to tell you real quick, this is about a guy who ends up going to Eastern Europe, and because his sister has died, and then he shows up and there's a character played by Christopher Lee named Stefan, who basically lets him know, hey, your sister's not dead, she's a werewolf, and she actually wanted herself to be killed so she wouldn't be a werewolf, but these werewolves that are around here are going to resurrect her as a werewolf. And so like he joins forces with this, this guy joins forces with Stefan, and then there's also this journalist there who's supposed to be looking into the death, and she joins up, and for some reason they're this ragtag group trying to go after all these werewolves, specifically Sturba, or Sturba as one of the characters says, but Stirba as Christopher Lee says, or his character. So they're going after him, and the movie is a mess. Like, it's not... I made my wife watch this with me, and she had so many questions about like why the movie's so bad, and I'm just like, it's just a bad movie. You got to accept that. Like, one of her things was like, why do the werewolves look like Sasquatch? And they do. They look like Sasquatch, but you get that information from the special features where they're basically talking about the fact that they were in Eastern Europe behind the Iron Curtain, so they were under actual communist rule at that point, trying to work under those conditions for this film, being watched very closely by authority figures that are not sympathetic to Westerners. And they had to get the costumes shipped to them, and what they got was not werewolf costumes, but they were sent Planet of the Apes costumes. And they were on a tight shooting budget and timeline, so they had to just make do with it. But what you get from the special features is a lot of that, a lot of how they made do with the situations that popped up and the resources that they did or did not have. And that's one of the strongest things I think about Vinegar Syndrome releases, and these are the types of releases I always hope for each month from Vinegar Syndrome, where it's this crappy movie that's still fun, that they give you so much good background information through essays or special features that let you know, how did it get so bad? What went wrong? And a lot of times there's like these funny anecdotes that end up being involved with it. So, and one thing I'll say, for as bad as this film is, it has wonderful pacing. Like, you're never bored. It's just fun. I really enjoy this film. I know a lot of people don't, but I really do enjoy this film. And one of the things I wanted to shout out as far as their special features go, okay, they have an interview. It's called Lights, Camera, Werewolves, a conversation with director Philippe Mora and filmmaker Michael Mohan, which Michael Mohan did Immaculate. That is one of the best formats of special features I've seen Vinegar Syndrome do, period. They should do more like that. Not where it's just like one person just sitting there, talking, but it's two people playing off of each other, and you know, one person asking questions and pulling extra stuff out and adding in some comments here and there, and just like showing this fun atmosphere. And you get that from that interview, and it's wonderful. And I would love for Vinegar Syndrome to go more in that direction, because it works so well. That's my favorite special feature on here, and the essay is really good. But so much fun, so cool. They even have a special feature about Christopher Lee and his. It's a film historian talking about Christopher Lee and his career. Like, that's super cool. But there are so many special features on this. It is jam packed. It's a 4K. So if you like this film at all, this one's a must. That's why this is my number one for the September Vinegar Syndrome releases. So that's all I have to say. That's my 2 cents. Go ahead and put your 2 cents down in the comments, or just talk about whatever horror stuff you want to, or not, whatever is not horror that you want to talk about. But I do have some memberships to my channel right now. There's a link in the description. You can check those out if you want. Subscribe to my channel to help me out. Thumbs up on the video to help me out. Hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I have new videos coming up. Like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do for the October one of these, because it's going to be a lot, so I might have to break it into 2 videos, but we'll see. Thanks so much for taking your time to watch this, and until next time, keep it brutal.